Okay. Yeah, so Eva, I was really indeed, it's also from oncology perspective, but if you put that, like what Gerard presented on what's how value-based healthcare is being conducted today, what's your key take? What did you take away from that through the lens of oncology patients or cancer patients, actually?
So just to kind of build on what was just mentioned, as a patient advocacy group, we're actually at the forefront of pushing that movement to always hear the patient voice and actually take the time to ask patients what they want and not assume, like we have historically done in the healthcare system, that doctors already know what patients want and need. And so by actually asking patients what they need, having those focus groups and having them inform, instead of collecting all the thousands of prompts that we can collect, why don't we collect the 5 that matter most to patients for that defined patient segment? And I think that, to go back to Gerard's presentation, oncology, when you bring it down to a very clearly defined patient segment based on shared needs, you can have a line model. But we'll talk later about how, that can be applied to managed care when you're looking at, the consequences of having an acute condition becoming chronic, So we'll talk about that later. But one thing that stood out to me the most out of your book and your presentation is the importance of change management. So you mentioned that in the Porter Teisberg, initial book in 2006, it wasn't mentioned, but in the graduate course at the Value Institute in Austin, led by Professor Teisberg, we do actually touch upon the importance of change management, the importance of good communication, effective teams that share data, but also engaging the key stakeholders. And in Canada, and what we're doing in oncology, that's a key part of our strategy, is engaging the key stakeholders, including patient partners, including the people responsible for implementing the VBHC change. So not just, having it come from the top down, but actually including the people that are responsible for implementing it, because otherwise it won't succeed. And also, and I think that this varies according to context, but in our case, including government or key decision makers, that will actually be necessary to scale up this VBHC vision, and that are necessary to actually implement the structural enablers like IT infrastructure and actually tying those outcomes to reimbursement, which is also essential. So I think that change management approach hasn't been discussed enough at the conceptual level of VBHC. But now as we start looking at different case studies, we notice that, for example, measuring just to measure is not sufficient to improve outcomes. You really need to engage all the key stakeholders and look at that care integration. And so one of the big highlights and takeaways for me from your book is actually the importance of prioritizing care integration over outcomes measurement, because care integration leads to outcomes improvement as well, but not vice versa. So that was a really key point, and I'll stop there because I know we have so much to talk about.